In 2014, a GM engineer named Ray DiGiorgio sat in a deposition room. He had approved a tiny design change, a spring and a plunger inside the ignition switch. The change cost less than 1 cent per car. But that part was installed in 2.6 million vehicles, and it had a flaw. It could turn off the engine, the airbags, and the power steering while you were driving 70 miles per hour. GM knew about it in 2004. They recalled in 2014. In between, at least 124 people died. This is the story of the ignition switch that killed in the 11-year cover-up. The defect was tiny. The ignition switch in the Chevrolet Cobalt, Saturn Ion, Pontiac G5, and HHR used a spring-loaded plunger to lock the key in the run position. The torque needed to turn the key from run to off was supposed to be 0.8 to 1.2 Newton centimeters, but the actual part often measured 0.4 or even 0.2. That's barely anything. If your keys were heavy, a keychain, a remote, a plush toy, or if you hit a bump, the key could rotate. The engine would stall. The power steering would die, and most fatally, the airbags would not deploy in a crash. The car was alive, then suddenly dead, and you were in a steel coffin with no protection. The first Cobalt rolled off the line in 2001. By 2004, GM's own engineers noticed the torque was too low. They designed a fix, a new plunger and spring. That fix was approved by Ray DiGiorgio in March 2005. But here's the crime. GM did not change the part number, so the defective switches stayed on the line, and the fixed version was indistinguishable. From 2005 to 2013, GM received over 500 complaints, stalls, loss of control, airbags not deploying. They opened investigations, then closed them. They told NHTSA that no defect existed. Meanwhile, people died. Amber Marie Rose was 16. She drove a 2005 Cobalt. Her keys had a heavy lanyard. On a bumpy road, the ignition clicked off. She crossed the center line. The airbags never opened. In 2006, Natasha Weigel, same story, Saturn Ion, ignition off, tree, no airbags. GM's response? Driver error. But families began to compare notes. They found that all the cars had the same strange behavior. The engine would die, but the lights and radio stayed on. That was the clue. The key had moved to accessory, not off. By 2014, 124 deaths were officially linked to the switch. Independent investigators say the real number is over 300. The truth came out in 2014, under oath. Ray DiGiorgio testified that he signed the change approval. But he had lied to investigators earlier. The part number never changed. So the defective switches remained in production for nearly a decade. GM was forced to recall 2.6 million vehicles. The fine? $35 million, a slap on the wrist. But the real punishment came from Congress. GM CEO Mary Barra was grilled for hours. She apologized. Families of the victims sat in the front row, silent and angry. The recall was the largest in GM's history, but it came 11 years too late. After the scandal, GM set up a compensation fund run by Kenneth Feinberg, the same lawyer who managed the 9/11's fund. It paid $600 million to 434 families. But GM also faced criminal charges. In 2015, the Department of Justice fined GM $900 million, the largest criminal penalty ever paid by an automaker. The company also admitted to misleading the government, but no executive went to jail. The scandal forced Congress to strengthen the TREAD Act. Automakers now must report any safety defect within 5 days, or face up to 15 years in prison. But that law came too late for Amber Rose and Natasha Weigel. The GM ignition switch taught us that a defect the size of a fingernail can kill, and that a company that knows can still choose to hide. Today, most cars have redesigned switches or push-to-start buttons, but the lesson remains. Every safety regulation exists because someone died first. The smallest part can have the biggest consequence. Next time you start your car, think about the tiny parts that keep you alive. And remember, they are only there because of the people we just talked about. If you want to dive deeper, check the links in the description and subscribe for more stories of engineering gone wrong.